Your eyes do not deceive you. Yes, welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast, new home on Boom Broadcasting. This is our debut week. Boom Broadcasting launched on July 1st, and it's the home of Drop the Mic. It's the home of Out of Pocket. It's the home of various other different shows. We'll even have a cooking show at some point debuting. But what is a better way to begin this new era for the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast than to kick things off with a special guest? You noticed in 2024, we've been conducting interviews with some beloved people in the wrestling business. And not long ago, a buddy of mine told me about this wrestler local to the area. I inquired about him and I saw him out at a wrestling convention here locally. And just less than 2 years later, he's taken the world by storm. He seems to be traveling everywhere and soon out of the country. He's abusing his power around the Carolinas, including a pit stop at Squared Circle Champions this Saturday. You love to hate him. Please welcome, I'll try my best impression, J.A.C.
It's got to just come just a little bit deeper, so I'll do it
Hello.
for you, so it's fine. So we'll go J-A-C. That's what you got to do. Just a little deeper.
If you are sitting front row, by the way, and he comes up to you and screams his name, it is very intimidating. So, would highly recommend to enhance your viewing experience by purchasing a front row seat for a JAC match. Man, it is awesome to have you on Drop the Mic. I know you're actually right at the AML's training center right now.
Yep.
That's where you got your training, right?
Yeah. I'm trained by the Beer City Bruiser at the AML Training Center. I started back in 2022. My training 2021, 2022, the end of 2021, beginning of 2022.
Yeah, and I think Beer City Bruiser, if I'm not mistaken, is just celebrating 2 years at AML Training Center. He's obviously been seen on Ring of Honor, but I know, I mean, just seeing the amount of progress you've made the last couple of years, and just knowing you and being familiar with your work, like, has how much has he helped you? Like, has there been like a key point of advice that you've taken with you throughout all your matches?
I think with just the level of aggression in matches and making it to where slowing it down and telling what I want to do in the ring instead of letting anything else dictate that having to focus, center around when it needs to be focused around me, when it doesn't. That's big with him, and timing and the cardio that he has gave me is ridiculous because he trains us like we're killers in a freaking village somewhere, So he was
Yeah.
trained by Harley Race for 7 years. So he was trained by one of the greatest of all time. And now we're getting trained by him. So we're learning knowledge from Harley. We're also learning knowledge from like Kenta Kobashi because he came to Harley's camp a bunch. So it's just knowledge that we get that we wouldn't really get anywhere else in the world. So it's really good. He's one of the best trainers in the world for sure.
Dude, that is awesome. Just being like, yeah, it's basically hand-me-down stuff from Harley Race, which is
Yeah.
one of like a legend in the business. I'm sure everyone familiar on Drop the Mic is familiar with Harley Race and all the stuff that he did.
Mm-hmm.
What was some of your like favorite wrestlers you got to watch? Because obviously you were inspired enough to become a pro wrestler.
Yeah, see, when I was a kid, it was like The Rock, Undertaker, Triple H, guys like that. But now that I've gotten older, it's the Bam Bam Bigelows, the Bruiser Brodies, the Stan Hansons, the Harley Races, the Terry Funks, those guys. Like, because I like fighters, and all those men they're fighters, and they were rough, they were tough, they were rugged, and I'm from Davie County, and I'm rough and rugged around the edges, and that's how I wrestle, So those are the guys I prefer now.
Yeah, dude. And it's awesome just seeing how much growth and success you've had in such a short period of time, dude. And especially like being a local guy, like I'm like, wow, dude, a lot of people around our parts, don't go and chase their dreams. And dude, it's really awesome to see you doing that.
Yeah, it's real easy for like to sit there and be at home and not do anything, and then say I wish I could have done this and that. I was at a time period of my life for like a year and a half where I was like that, and when that time period ended, I knew I needed to get my ass off the couch. I'm like, okay, I'm either going to do what I want to do in my life, or I'm just going to be sad about it for the rest of my life. So, I'd rather chase my dreams and then not live with regrets later on than and be happy now. You know.
dude, and it's awesome, and it's a great way too to like connect with the crowd, because if a crowd, knows that how much work you've put in, everything, but you don't always garner a positive reaction from the crowd. I was at the Andre the Giant memorial show last August,
Mm-hmm.
and dude, I think that was my dad's first time seeing your work in ring, and you came out and dad's like, whoa, he's got it. Like he knows how to engage the crowd's reaction, whatever you want it to be in the first like 5, 7 seconds. Like what is going through your mind when you're about to step out of the curtain and knowing how to get that reaction from the fans?
I'm just thinking, what would piss me off? What would make me mad? What can I say that would make me mad enough to like get mad at this guy? And I have seven. Like you're right, you get 7 seconds to make an impression on somebody, and that's it. If you don't have them in that 7 seconds, you're not gonna get them the rest of the time. So I got 7 seconds right when I walk out. Okay, who is that guy? What is J.A.C. all about? And then when I walk out, that first 7 seconds, immediately. And so when I'm before the curtain hits, there's there's nerves walking to the curtain, get right to the curtain area. I'm like, no, I'm the killer. This is my world. And then I'm ready to go then.
Dude, and it's about to be your world. We'll talk a little bit about that more, but you are at the AML Training Center. You're
Mm-hmm.
receiving really great stuff from Beer City Bruiser, one of the trainers there. But people don't know, and I think you're wearing the shirt, the Abuse of Power shirt.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
it. There it is.
yeah, let's get the marketing right there.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because I obviously got, I think I have like 3 of your shirts now. I got this one, I got the Fires Club with
Mm-hmm.
the club, obviously. I mean,
Yep.
that's perfect. And then of course that one. We were
Mm-hmm.
so close to twinning, by the way. We were so close to twinning
Oh
tonight.
man, that close. We could have had it. We could have had it. That's just a good shirt too. So it's all good.
Yeah. We're promoting both shirts tonight.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, right? Abuse of Power, I'd gotten that T-shirt from you, and then I
Mm-hmm.
walked over to John Schuyler's booth, and he was like, "Where'd you get that shirt?" Because people don't know, like John Schuyler was a part of Abuse of Power,
Mm-hmm.
JAC, and then Zuka King, but now y'all have went from 3 guys to 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how did that work? Like, how did you get involved with Abuse of Power, and how did it go from 3 people to just 2?
They kind of one day they were ready for me to go up to the main roster. I was Future Stars champion at the time, and they said we were doing some stuff that worked and what didn't. We were doing some single stuff, which was going really good, and then we did some stuff with me and Beer City Bruiser, which I enjoyed just as much. But then they put me with Zuka, and then they also threw me in with John Scholar. And the moment they had me and Zuka together, I think it just switched. We connected, and I have more chemistry with him than anybody I've ever tagged with, and we just both have a very similar view of wrestling and how we see wrestling, and now we tag everywhere together. John quit AML at WrestleCade, and when he left, he kind of left us high and dry, and he came back, recently. But I mean, we're doing our own thing now. We don't need John anymore. Me and Zuka are ourselves. Never really needed him in the first place, but it was nice to have that trios. But now that we're on, we're bigger and better than we ever have been. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point. You guys got to main event an AML show, I
Mhm.
believe, just a couple months ago. I was in attendance for it. It was y'all's match against Brad Attitude and Nick Namath. That
Mhm.
was the main event. Was that your first main event on an AML show? I mean, you've done
Yeah.
the Future Stars.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. First one, and I'm the first ever trainee from AML to main event AML show. So that was cool.
Wow.
I'm also the first trainee to be a Future Stars champion, but the AML thing was cool. I was a very feather in the cap because there's been a lot of trainings to come through AML over the years because they've had the training center for 5, 6, maybe 7 years now. It went from
Yeah.
George South to Josh Gary to Beer City. But and it was very surreal being the first one after all those years. And Brian Hawks, the booker of AML, texted me that morning. He goes, "You're going to main event an AML show. You're the first one." And I didn't even realize it at the time. He said that because I was more excited of who I was wrestling. I wasn't thinking about main event or nothing. I was like, I'm wrestling Nick Nemeth / Dolph Ziggler. That's the coolest thing in the world. So.
And especially like, obviously, Nick Namath used to be Dolph Ziggler in WWE. Like, I don't know if you had a moment of yours watching Dolph Ziggler on TV to where you're like, whoa, now I'm stepping into the ring with him.
2014 Survivor Series, when he was the last one standing, he pinned Seth Rollins at the end with the help of Sting, of course. But yeah, it was funny because Haley, the ring announcer, me and my wife are really good friends with her and Axton Ray, and in the ring, I looked at her. Her favorite match of all time, 2014 Survivor Series, and I looked at her like right when Nick walked out, I said, "2014 Survivor Series, baby." She got so excited.
Man, that is awesome. Just seeing like, wow, I've watched this guy on TV and now it's like, oh, I'm wrestling him.
Yeah.
Did you come away with like a learning experience of like, man, being in the ring with him? Was there anything you took away from that?
Timing with him, it's just the little things that he does because he doesn't do a whole lot. And learning that was a big thing. And then also learning that I'm just as good as the best in the world. That was a very mental note right then and there. I was like, I hung with him, I can hang with them all.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, he's always has been one of the best in the world. He never got the credit for it. He's so good in the ring. Like to it's an understatement to say how good he is until you're in there and you really realize how good he is. You also don't really realize how good Brad is until you're in the ring with him. Brad's phenomenal. Phenomenal. I can't say, enough words about how good he is in the ring. Now he's a freaking scumbag, but he's good in the ring,
I can't say he's a scumbag because
he's a crap.
he was also on Drop the Mic a couple months ago prior to that match that you guys had in main event in AML. I followed Brad for like literally probably since my first ever wrestling show back in January 05.
Wow.
Yeah, he's great. I know you guys don't get along, I know it's a touchy subject after everything that happened, but what do you think? I mean, you love teaming with Zuka King. What do you think is next for you guys? I mean, main event and AML, like how much better can it get for you guys?
I mean, we want the world AML tag titles, of course. Like that's obviously the goal. But then obviously, like we want to be on TNA or NWA together, or WWE wherever. We want a contract together. That'd be cool. But even if it's not together, like if one of us gets the contract, we want that as well. Because that's a big deal to us.
Dude, that'll be awesome. I'm hoping you guys get there. I've been able to call one of Zuka King's matches at Squared Circle Champions, and now you're going to be at Squared Circle Champions this Saturday, Mount Pleasant Elementary School in Ferguson, North Carolina, July 6th, the Summer Sizzling Showdown. And I don't know if you know this, you have a match with Chase Emery, who my broadcast partner, Shan Smith, does color commentary for Squared Circle Champions. I do play-by-play. Shan's called him basically the British Bulldog in terms of the look and everything about him. How familiar are you with Chase Emery? Have you guys ever wrestled each other before?
We were in a tag team match against each other. It was me and Zuka versus him, and I don't remember the other guy's name, but it was in 3 Count Pro in South Carolina, and me and Zuka beat him. So I mean, what do you think is going to happen in this one? I mean, just to be honest with you. I mean, he's a former amateur wrestler as well. He's a very high level amateur wrestler than him. So I mean, I'm gonna whip his ass. I'm just being honest with you. I'm very excited about it because like it's gonna be a tough little contest, but still gonna get his ass beat. So
yeah, J.A.C's like, I'm not worried. So yeah, J.A.C, Chase Emery, Squared Circle Champions, and then beyond that weekend, you are probably leaving the country. What's that all about, man?
Yeah, I'm doing a tour August through the end of October with Marvelous, and there's another company that I can't announce yet that I'm doing it down there with. I have told a few people, but that's a really big deal. But yeah, I got picked. I went down to California for a tryout for the Marvelous Coast tryout. Me and my wife did, and I was the male select that got picked, which was really cool. That was back in March, and now I'm finally getting to go do that. I've been wanting to go to Japan since I started wrestling. Like this is the biggest. This was my goal because my idols wrestled through Japan. So getting to
Mm.
go this early in my career is surreal. It's really cool.
Man, dude, that is super awesome. So you said you'll be there from August to
End of October.
okay. So you'll be back for WrestleCade in November.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll try to hold the fort down here in the States while you're gone. In Japan, like I mean that's a whole thing of itself. Like I love waking up on January 4th or even staying up on January 4th to watch Wrestle Kingdom, Tokyo Dome. I've always made the joke because my younger brother's birthday is January 4th. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I'm so excited for January 4th, not because it's my brother's birthday, it's because it's Wrestle Kingdom Day. Like
Yeah.
that's a big deal. So I've always wanted to go to Japan. What's one thing you're excited about being in the Japanese culture? Is there anything you're like, hey, I need to do that while I'm here?
I'm a big Godzilla mark, like just huge. I love Godzilla. So there's like this. There's a tower over there that has like a big Godzilla head on it. I want
No
to go see that.
way.
And then they got this like zip line thing where you like go through like Godzilla's mouth from like the Godzilla -1, and I want to go do that. But we'll see what all I can do. Like I signed a contract that's kind of exclusive for some things I can do and some things I can't do. So like we'll see. I'm gonna ask permission for at least to do that. And then I want to go to the steakhouse as well that every wrestler goes to. But like yeah, that's the goal of mine. I want to go see Godzilla.
Dude, that zip line sounds awesome, man.
It looked cool. I just saw it recently the other day on like my thing because I follow a bunch of Godzilla stuff on Instagram, and I said, "Oh, that looks cool." They said I was in Japan. I said, "I'm gonna try that."
Man, dude, that you gotta let me know if you get to do that, have somebody like film it or whatever. Or maybe even like have your phone out and you're like, hey, going through the mouth of Godzilla.
Yeah, I definitely need to do something. Just something for social media. I gotta keep posting stuff.
I mean, if there's no footage, it never happened. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, in this day and age, no one believes you unless you got a picture or something of it.
for real. Well, you said one of your goals was going to Japan. You are going to be able to do that here next month. Dude, what's another goal that you would like to accomplish? Because we're midway point right now. Today's July 3rd. I mean, we're midway point and through the year. What do you want to accomplish before 2024 comes to an end?
I mean, after the Japan stuff, I mean, I'm gonna be back, in the States for like, I'd like to get maybe on TNA once before the end
Yeah.
of the year. That's a big goal of mine. I was on NWA at the beginning of the year. If I can
Mhm.
do TNA too, that'd be pretty cool. That's a goal. If not, get signed maybe somewhere else before the end of the year. That'd be dope. But that'd be cool to just that one little, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Dude, that'll be awesome. Dude, you deserve it, especially seeing how much work you put in behind the curtain, but also when you come out in the curtain, that 7 seconds where the fans have to make up their mind on you. I'm just seeing you bust your butt. You're at the train center tonight and you're just you're grinding. So
Mm,
I'm rooting for you big time.
thanks.
And if you guys have not had the chance to meet J.A.C. yet, he will be Mount Pleasant Elementary School, Ferguson, North Carolina. Didn't grow up too far from there.
Mm.
And he'll be there wrestling Chase Emery. I'll be there as well. Get your picture with JAC and then come over and, take a picture with me. Who knows? Um,
And buy stuff at my freaking merch table because I got to make my damn money. It ain't worth me coming down there unless you go buy a shirt. You know,
dude,
Poor Chase Emery's gonna have his head on a platter afterward. You're gonna need to stop by and buy some stuff so you can clean the blood off of him. I mean, just simple.
I mean, and you're getting your presentation right here
Yeah.
with the t-shirts. I wish I had my Fires Club one out. It's over in the drawers right there. But JC, if people are not familiar with you, I know they can find you at AML at Squared Circle Champions in Japan. If we have some Japan listeners right now, where else can they find you? Social media? Where else are you wrestling?
Yeah, go to on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Don't try to add me on Facebook. At JC is a bad man. You can follow me on there. And then I'm in Pile Driver Pro a lot in Tennessee. I'm at APW Chester a lot in South Carolina. I'm obviously at AML. So try to. Those are kind of my core shows I like to do the most. So go find me on those shows.
Yeah, JAC is a bad man. You get to meet him this Saturday at Squared Circle Champions. But JC, thank you so much for stopping by, taking time out of your schedule to hop on, drop the mic. You're the first face that we got to see on Drop the Mic in its new home of Boom Broadcasting's YouTube channel. You guys can subscribe, follow us. But we're going to let J.A.C go out here. When we get back, we still got to talk AEW Forbidden Door. We still got to talk about WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So we'll let J.A.C go back to training for this Saturday, and we're going to get into some AEW conversation. Wow. What a great interview with I'm trying, I promise. JAC. I'm trying. I'm getting better. I gotta warm up the vocal cords, you know. That was a fantastic interview. If you haven't, go follow him on his socials at JAC is a bad man. You're going to be able to experience that at Squared Circle Champions this Saturday. Myself and Shane Smith, another guy from Boom Broadcasting, will be on the commentary table. It will be a great time. But I will have Joe Lopez on to talk about Money in the Bank, but I would be remiss without mentioning just some stuff that happened on AEW's Forbidden Door. Now, Drop the Mic has obviously grown in tremendous ways. Usually, well, I'll start with this. When Drop the Mic started, it was just solo. It was just me, but there wasn't any of this stuff in the background. And then, of course, I got to meet some people in network, everything, connect with some really great people. And I was able to have them on the show and get to hear their thoughts and their opinions. And then the show's grown to where I can interview people like JAC and the stuff that he's doing. And now I get to, do this whole adventure with Boom Broadcasting. And so I wanted to do a little throwback, right? I wanted to do a little solo. Be sure I touch on AEW's Forbidden Door before we get Joe in to talk Money in the Bank. First things first, I wanted to make a few notes. AEW had way too many good matches on the pre-show. I mean, I had a lot of stuff to do Sunday before Boom Broadcasting's launch. That launched this past Monday on July 1st. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. But AEW, their pre-show, I was using that time to get everything ready. And my dad's like, hey, House of Black's on. Hey, Kyle Fletcher's on. Hey, Mariah May and Soraya's on. Hey, Lucha Bros are on. I'm like, why did we not have this stuff on the main show? And I will say I was critical, very critical actually, of what AEW was doing with Forbidden Door, especially with the main event not being somebody from New Japan against Swerve. And you know what? I take all that back because this was a great pay-per-view. It was very enjoyable, and I absolutely loved it. Next order of business on Drop the Mic. There were a few good matches. Of course, MJF beating Hechicero. You had the Elite beating the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi in a really great match. But Bryan Danielson and Shingo Takagi, if you've never watched a Shingo Takagi match, well, hopefully now you have, because hopefully you did watch Forbidden Door. This was a fantastic match. And you shouldn't be surprised because it was a Bryan Danielson match and a Shingo Takagi match. So whenever you combine those two, and I know Bryan Danielson is nearing the end of his pro wrestling career, at least a full-time pro wrestler, and is in his career with AEW. But he should totally win the Owen Hart Cup. Of course, they announced that this Owen Hart Cup will have the same stipulation that WWE made for their King of the Ring tournament. Not saying they copied the homework, but they changed enough words to make it, get past the teacher at least. But the Owen Hart Cup winner, the finals is on a regular Dynamite July 10th, I believe. So it'll be next week. It'll be a week from today that the Owen Hart Cup finals commence. Bryan Danielson should very well be that winner. Bryan Danielson is wrestling Pac in the semifinals this week. Jay White will wrestle the winner of Jeff Jarrett and the wild card entrant during tonight's Dynamite. It's a lot of great stuff there. But I really feel like Bryan Danielson winning this tournament and challenging whoever. I mean, it could be Swerve, it could be Will Ospreay, it could be somebody else. I feel like Bryan Danielson is the move because you didn't capitalize on that main event match, Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland at All In Wembley. Now you can cash in with Bryan Danielson, potentially wrestling Swerve, and you know you're not going to get a bad match. You're actually going to get a really good main event. And if you didn't watch Forbidden Door, you missed a really good match between Orange Cassidy and New Japan's Zack Sabre Jr. You might be familiar with Zack Sabre Jr. from the Cruiserweight Classic back in what, 2016, 17, 18 timeframe. Actually, I want to say 2016 because that was the same year of the brand split and people from the Cruiserweight Classic moved over to the Raw brand momentarily before they did 205 Live. I love Zack Sabre Jr. And I feel like this was the first time my dad and my mom watched the pay-per-view with me. They got to experience what a Zack Sabre Jr. match was. And the one thing to note is I'm like, yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. is awesome. But they were like, no, Orange Cassidy did that move. And that's the thing about Zack Sabre Jr. matches, right? He brings the best out of his opponents, just like Bryan Danielson would do with anyone. So to see Zack Sabre Jr. thrive in AEW ring, I want this guy in the States full time. My dad even recommended, hey, why not bring Zack Sabre Jr. under the tutelage of one William Regal? If Zack Sabre Jr. is willing to give WWE another chance under this Triple H regime, I wouldn't be mad at it. Any way we can get Zack Sabre Jr. on our televisions more on a weekly basis, I'm okay with. What I wasn't okay with is an injury that happened last month. Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, had to relinquish the TNT Championship due to a broken leg diving off a cage against Malachi Black at Double or Nothing. What a match, by the way. That steel cage match with Malachi Black was great. But Adam Copeland had to forfeit. And I said that Jack Perry was going to be the right decision to put the TNT Championship on. Why? Because you have the four pillars, right? You have MJF. You have Sammy Guevara. You have Jack Perry. And you have Darby Allin. And what was great about the four pillars was they were win goal. Like Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara really solidified what the TNT title was supposed to be. MJF is the longest reigning AEW world champion in company history. What Jack Perry done? Jack Perry was, with this dinosaur called Luchasaurus, and then he got infamously known as the guy who made CM Punk quit AEW. I mean, it was all this stuff, right? Jack Perry needed this TNT title more than Adam Copeland did, more than anybody else. And he is going to be right in this spot. Jack Perry, the way that he's changed his character into this lovable Tarzan, whoa, 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 to what he's doing now with the Elite, being the scapegoat, being the guy everybody despises. Even the people who didn't want CM Punk there to begin with, everybody despises Jack Perry. And now he's the TNT champion. Now, just like WWE did with Evolution way back when in 2003, 4, 5, you have the gold on all the Elite. You have the Continental Championship on Okada. You have the TNT title on Jack Perry. You have the AEW tag titles on the Young Bucks. You can start legitimizing those championships. Of course, the Elite won their match earlier in the night against Hiroshi Tanahashi and the Acclaimed, but Jack Perry came away the big winner. But fans, we were big winners because not only did Mercedes Moné win the title that eluded her with that gruesome injury she suffered at the hands of Willow Nightingale about a year ago, she finally is the TBS champion, and she's now simultaneously the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. But then as she celebrates, she is Mercedes 2 belts. You get DMD, Dr. Britt Baker, finally making her return. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. And we just did the interview with J.A.C. We did an interview earlier this year, I believe back in January, with CC Young. And CC Young is a huge Dr. Britt Baker fan and actually had a great fan experience that we talked about on that episode. I might go find that episode and try to show you guys what that's all about. Maybe repurpose, right? But Dr. Britt Baker didn't wrestle at all in 2023, and she hasn't wrestled at all in 2024. And we were really worried. Nobody was like saying anything. Of course, Adam Cole got injured like 3 times between this time period. But for Dr. Britt Baker, and we talked about Jack Perry being one of the 4 pillars of AEW, you could make a case that Dr. Britt Baker was the whole building when it came to the women's division. She was the whole foundation. And now she's back. And now there's a potential match with her and Mercedes Moné. Guys, this was the dream match when Mercedes signed on. And it's great to know Dr. Britt Baker is healthy. She is back. And we should get that dream match between Dr. Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné. DMD, CEO, sign me up. Just like I wanted you guys to sign me up for the main event. Will Ospreay serves Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Title. And again, very critical about not cashing in on this match at All In Wembley. But instead, what we did was have a fantastic match. And my dad had to calm me down. Don't upset the dog. You need to calm down. But there were so many moments I jumped up in my seat and was like, oh my goodness, did that just happen? And it did. Swerve Strickland actually gave Will Ospreay his first loss. Swerve, I believe, was actually the first person to kick out of the Stormbreaker. It instantly legitimized Swerve Strickland's run as AEW World Champion to beat Will Ospreay. But what needs to happen now is Will Ospreay needs a clean split from the Don Callis family. I want Don Callis to call Will Ospreay out there. You know, Ospreay's been saying he can do this on his own. Ospreay doesn't win the big one. Don Callis tried handing him the screwdriver to put the nail in the coffin, and he couldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. Don Callis tonight on Dynamite needs to have his family beat up Will Ospreay and give us a summer of the Don Callis family trying to get the international title off of Will Ospreay, leading up to probably a bigger match at All In Wembley. Potentially Ricochet. Ricochet, by the way, is a free agent right now. I would love to see Ricochet show up on AEW program, and maybe he's the wild card entrant for Jeff Jarrett in this quarterfinals match, and we could get a Ricochet Bryan Danielson finals matchup in the Owen Hart Cup. Who knows? I mean, I'd like to see it. Would you? Well, what we would like to see is Money in the Bank this weekend. I'm about to welcome in Joe Lopez from Fans First Sports Network. We both do work for FFSN. So excited to bring him on to talk about something he doesn't get to talk about much. He talks about Texas Tech, but now he gets to talk about wrestling, WWE, Money in the Bank. We'll welcome in Joe Lopez right now on the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast. Guys, what a debut for Drop the Mic it has been on Boom Broadcasting. We had that interview with J.A.C. At the top of the show, our first ever interview on this new channel, Boom Broadcasting. In addition, just ran through a quick few thoughts on AEW's Forbidden Door that I'm super excited about. One, make sure you guys are following our channel, our new home, Boom Broadcasting. So I'm super excited, but we also have a WWE pay-per-view this weekend. So I had to bring in my good friend from Texas. Any Texas friend I have is a good one. We got Joe. Joe, how are you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. And yes, Texas, baby. I mean, you're a Cowboys fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. We're etched in hatred for Jerry Jones, probably, and like a whole lot of head scratching. I know I don't have a whole lot of hair to pull out like yourself, but this is what a Cowboys fan does to you right here. If anybody could see me right now, this is what being a Cowboys fan does: grays and baldness. So yeah,
Well, I hope that future isn't for me as well. I mean, I kind of
right.
like my hair. um,
Enjoy it while it's there.
Thank you. Well, I am going to be watching Money in the Bank probably on delay because I will be calling J.A.C's match at Squared Circle Champions this Saturday in Ferguson, North Carolina, at Mount Pleasant Elementary School. So I'll probably watch Money in the Bank when I get home that evening or bright and early Sunday morning before the church service. But dude, we have 5 matches announced right now, and before we get into the actual ladder matches, um, one of the big matches that has my eye, and we talked on Out of Pocket yesterday about Paul Heyman's legacy. This probably being the best Paul Heyman chapter of his career. But Paul Heyman was basically kicked out of Solo Sikoa's bloodline last night, and that version of the bloodline, any three of Solo Sikoa, Tamatonga, Tongaloa, or Jacob Fatu can wrestle Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes. And Joe, I've been saying for weeks how this will probably go down is Solo actually pinning Cody Rhodes and setting up a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. Is that, I mean, this is out of pocket, but is that out of pocket to say? Do you see that going down that way?
I've seen it. I've seen the course run that way before. I think that that's very, very plausible. I mean, if you were betting, right, I would say that that's probably your safe bet, right? The bet where you could put some money on and probably turn a little bit of profit. Not quite, out of pocket, but there's other out of pockets. I mean, I could say a bunch of different things or scenarios that I've had running through my head. The matter of fact, the last time we spoke, we did talk about where the bloodline was headed. And I said in that podcast then that I kind of felt like this was a NWO WCW kind of day. There's going to be a faction between the two. One's going to break off. You're going to have your Wolf Pack and you're going to have your NWO. Now you have Bloodline A and you're about to have a Bloodline B. So are you going to have this big family fight going towards WrestleMania? Are you going to put all your chips on SummerSlam? Where are you going to kind of take this? And I think we're going to get a lot of answers on Saturday night. I think there's possibilities of what you just said. Cody and geez Louise, I
Solo.
just for Solo getting pinned and that going off into SummerSlam and taking it there, and then that's when that other storyline will take a turn somewhere in that whole thing. Maybe Solo's about to pin Cody, and then we get a surprise return from Roman. Something to reclaim, the head of the table, or he wins, and now you have Solo versus Roman for the championship at WrestleMania. Bloodline versus bloodline kind of deal. So it's very interesting for me. That is a very interesting matchup in multiple ways. Do we see the return of Jimmy Uso? He's been out on the shelf for a while. Does he come back? Is this that moment? Or are we going to wait to SummerSlam to bring him back? So a lot of storylines could break off and branch off. I know a lot of it's probably going to have to do with Jay and how he does in the actual Money in the Bank itself for in the ladder match, to see if he's going to carry on with some of the bloodline stuff, or is he going to still ride that momentum of where his trajectory's been since WrestleMania, essentially. So we'll see what happens, but a lot of cool stuff going to happen in the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 days for sure.
Dude, there's so much going on, and it's really cool, and we'll talk about this more when we get ladder matches. It's like all these stories are interwoven into each other. Um, so yeah, who are you staking your claim? If you had to be a betting man for the 6-man tag, who does win this Saturday?
I don't know, because what is it if it's what are the rules, right? Is this all hell breaks loose? Is it going to turn into something bigger than a 6-man, like a street fight 6-man? Because the way Kevin Owens is, the way Randy Orton is, and then how Cody's temper is with given circumstances in different matches where he's been jumped like whenever The Rock whipped him after a Raw, out in the parking lot and all of that stuff, how he came back and he wanted just to go at it. So If it's a straight up 6-man tag match, I still think that I'm going to fall in the line with Cody and Randy and Kevin Owens, finding some way to sneak it out. But that's just because they get some help from an outside source that nobody's expecting.
Okay. Well, that's one of our matches. The other one, Sami Zayn defending his Intercontinental Championship against Braun Breaker. Joe, I really love Braun Breaker and the way he's improved over the last 3 years. I mean, this has been incredible to watch unfold before our eyes. People have followed him through NXT and him really starting his wrestling journey. But I'll be honest, like everybody's expecting Sami Zayn to lose the Intercontinental title of Braun Breaker. I don't see that happening this weekend. Like everybody's jumping on the Braun Breaker train. It just feels like Sammy is going to find a way to win, and then we'll continue to see more character development from Braun Breaker because of a loss. What camp are you in? Are you in camp Sami Zayn, or are you in camp Breaker breaking Sammy's title reign?
As much respect as I have for Braun Breaker and the incredible trajectory he's had over the course of the last 3 years, I just don't think it's time yet. It will come, but I just don't think it's time. I think Sammy ultimately pulls this one out and retains, but this, because I don't know where you would take a Braun Breaker match after, Money in the Bank, going into SummerSlam. Who are you going to put up against him? Is there anybody that you could think of off of the top of your head that you would just put in a match with Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship that would be of any merit?
It would be tough. Like it's really
Right?
tough.
Yeah. So I just think maybe it's one of those deals where he gets the respect, right? That's what you want in this game. A Sami Zayn, you take a Sami Zayn all the way to the end. And Sammy's Sammy's that guy. He's the yes. He's the Daniel Bryan, just an all-around good guy, right? He's always doing the right thing. Does that ultimately put him in another bad spot with Braun to where he tries to do the right thing and then Braun kicks his ass or something? Like, is that something that could potentially happen there at the end of that? There's a lot to do with that. I just don't think there's anybody for Braun Breaker after Sami Zayn, only if it's Sami Zayn a second time at SummerSlam. So, and I don't see that happening going back to back and PLEs and stuff. It's just odd for me to see that. So I think Sammy retains, and then that goes on to somewhere else. But Braun Breaker's, like I said, his trajectory, man, he's going to be a championship. He's going to be a championship holder. I would say at least by WrestleMania for sure. He'll have a belt of some sort.
Oh yeah, and maybe it is the Intercontinental title, but I'm like you. I don't see this happening right now. The guy I could actually see taking the top, because again, you're thinking so many steps ahead, which is what I wish the rest of the wrestling community would do.
Right.
Like everybody wants a hot shot. Yes, let's give him the title. Let's give him the title.
Right.
Okay, what do you do afterwards? I feel like that's the same thing with Cody Rhodes in his WWE title match. I mean, yeah, the bloodline's a lot better now because of how everything's unfolding, but who'd you have lined up for Cody? The same thing with Braun Breaker. I don't know if you have a lot of face mid-card guys lined up for Braun Breaker, but you do have Dominic Mysterio lined up for Sami Zayn. And what a way Liv Morgan could complete getting through everything to get all of Judgment Day on her side, then to help Dominic Mysterio win the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam from Sami Zayn. That could be awesome. And
Or does Rhea stop that from happening? Is she back by SummerSlam?
Wow. Dude, I can't wait for Rhea Ripley to be back, man.
When her music hits, it's almost going to be as epic as whenever Roman's music hits for the first time, whenever he comes back. What's kind of crazy, he left a heel and he's going to come back not. That's absolutely absurd to me. So just in these next couple PLEs, a lot of stuff is going to be thrown out there and we're going to prep for WrestleMania coming up. So like I said, I just don't see Braun being there just yet. But by far one of the coolest entrances that I've seen in a long time, and I love it. I just absolutely love whenever he gets on the side of the ring and then they zoom in on his face and he's just, just getting it right there. I mean, that if that doesn't get you hyped, man, then what are you even doing? Are you even a wrestling fan? Because that should get you jacked up, right?
Dude, yeah. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm not even like a Braun Breaker fan. Not say like he's bad or anything. It's just
Right.
he's not my cup of tea, but like this music and his intensity, it's like, okay, there's something here. And whatever wasn't, they figured it out and they've tweaked things. And mentioning, Dom Mysterio and Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, like hopefully Rhea can come back soon. But Damian Priest defends the World Heavyweight title against Seth Rollins. And if Priest wins, Rollins will never challenge for the title as long as Priest is champion. But if Rollins wins, Damian Priest leaves Judgment Day. Dude, I've went back and forth, but with the stipulations there and with Gunther looming for SummerSlam, I could totally see a scenario where Seth Rollins wins this World Heavyweight title just in enough time to get the title on Gunther at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I am right there with you in that sentiment. And this is kind of goes back to the Braun Breaker deal, right? You don't want to give him the belt so early. Now we move on to a Gunther, right? He's paid his dues. The Intercontinental Championship was with him for, X amount of days. He lost it to Sami Zayn. And I mean, if it's anybody who's more deserving of that shot in a title match, which he's going to get, I do ultimately think that it is his time to become champion. I think he's deserved it. And I mean, as much as I really don't like him, like his character, sometimes it's just, I just don't like it. I mean, I'm not going to,
You don't like Gunther?
I mean, there's some bravado about him, right? There's just some aura that you hate to love the guy, right? So it's like, man, I hate you so much, but I can't stop watching you. And I feel that way about him. Maybe it's because of Imperium, and it's not so much anything that he's done on his own merit to a degree, because of Imperium saved him a lot of times as well. Just like, the Usos saved Roman a lot of times. So it's like, what kind of champion are you really going to get? But I think for as far as the fights, whenever he was going to, whenever he had that Intercontinental Championship run, he was a fighting champion. He would give people their chances, and it would be a back and forth, but he just ultimately found a way to win it. Now, if it's one of those deals where he, sees Seth in SummerSlam, I mean, I could see Gunther, winning the championship then. And then I could see, Damian Priest and the whole Judgment Day being blown up. I have a feeling that that's very much possible. What if a new Judgment Day comes of it and they're divided just like the Bloodline, with Liv on this side and Rhea on this side, Finn and JD McDonough on this side? Like, I mean, choose your sides. I mean, you're kind of setting up yourself for some potentials there. Now, that's neither here or there, but, these are just things that you could potentially see. But yeah, I like Seth Rollins coming out of this one with the W. Judgment, Senior Money in the Bank himself being, out of Judgment Day, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it's tough. I love that idea of, putting Damian and Dom and Rhea on one side, and then,
Right.
Finn, JD, and Liv on the other. I mean, that could be a really good split. And of course, Liv Morgan won this match a couple years ago. We'll rewatch that over on Peacock. But now we're at the Money in the Bank ladder matches for the women's. We have Io Sky, Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyria, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Zoe Stark. Those are our 6 women. I made my prediction yesterday on Out of Pocket. And while I could see Zoe Stark winning, I feel like Tiffany Stratton, didn't win Queen of the Ring. I feel like this is her moment. Joe, who are you going with? You got 6 options. So there's there's 5 out of 6 chances you could be wrong. I mean,
Right.
that's not me, of course.
I don't think I've ever correctly picked a Money in the Bank winner. not even by default.
All right. So pick somebody that I didn't just pick, okay?
I don't. Chelsea Green is that wild card for me, right? Like, and just I don't know, man. I'll go ahead and I'll start taking the nose. Io, Dakota, Chelsea Green, and I'm going to call it's going to be between Tiffany Stratton and Valkyria. Those two will be the last two standing, and it's going to be between one of those two. I do think Tiffany Stratton's has exceeded expectations. I do think that she has, that ace in her pocket. She's been getting help from some other outside influences in the women's department as well. So who knows who could potentially show up to help her in such a situation. So, I want to give the nod to Tiffany Stratton over, Tiffany Stratton.
Dude, I gave you one rule.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
One job.
Valkyria is very, very good to me, though. Like, I think she's due for something, and I think maybe a heavyweight title is too soon for her, like the Braun Breaker deal. But she's kind of earned her keep in being, very, very much involved in the plans moving forward for the championships there. Tiffany Stratton, like I said, she'll be in her own, and I'll just reverse that. You're Tiffany Stratton. I'll do Valkyrie, and I just don't think she's ready for it, but I think she is able to cash in somewhere potentially down the road because, like I said, she went back to back with Becky Lynch. I mean, she's like another Becky Lynch coming up, like a starter pack for what.
What a way to put it right there of Lyra Valkyria and her stuff. Both of those girls, like Tiffany Stratton and Becky Lynch, their feud, Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch, their feud, like both of those people could very well win Money in the Bank. I hope it's Tiffany. I'm letting you switch your pick to Lyra Valkyria so I can be
That's
right.
Fine. Yeah. Hey, it's going to be one of us. I think we're right there in the same ballpark. Our mindset is kind of, just like, the typical, I wouldn't say typical, but, the right now wrestling fans, I want it right now, just like the whole White Six returning, right? I want it right now. They need to show up. But the way they played that out over the weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, I mean, was done to perfection. There's not an absolute time in wrestling where I was more glued looking for a QR code in my life.
Wow. Or even like the little nuggets of, stuff they drop during WWE's programming, like people talking backstage or this certain item just mysteriously placed there.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And White Six might even appear and cost Chad Gable the Money in the Bank. Not only is Chad Gable in this ladder match for the men, but it's LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, Andrade, Carmelo Hayes, and Jey Uso. Now, yesterday on Out of Pocket, I was outnumbered with the Jey Uso pick. I don't think Jey Uso wins this. I feel like everybody thinks he will, which makes me think, okay, he's not going to. Joe, of those six people, Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, LA Knight, or Drew McIntyre, who do you think walks away with the Money in the Bank briefcase?
Jey Uso's your favorite, right? And that's just across the board, everybody. I don't think it happens just because I think he's going to be involved in what's going on the other side with the bloodline stuff. I just think it's one of those deals. Jimmy goes out, tries to save the day, gets his butt whooped. Well, brother comes out and saves him, right? They'll both be at a PLE together. This is, I mean, hypothetically, the time that they could be at a PLE together. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to put him in the bloodline story moving forward. So from a different perspective, Drew McIntyre, I think, is going to ultimately find a CM Punk match somewhere. That it just has to happen, right? They've been back and forth. You don't know where this storyline would have been had CM Punk not got injured at Royal Rumble. Like, where would this have all kind of played out moving forward? he gets injured, so you have to change up the dynamic. You have to change up the story. Is this where they come back and converge at SummerSlam? Does CM Punk come back from that beatdown that he took in his hometown to cost Drew McIntyre again? And now we have some buildup going into SummerSlam. Andrade, LA Knight. I'm leaning LA Knight because of just his crowd presence, and I also think that would be an interesting dynamic as him being a Money in the Bank holder on SmackDown, where the current champion is Cody Rhodes. They did have a pretty epic match prior to as well. So is this one of those deals that this is where we're going to go? I think Drew McIntyre's had too many chances here, man. Like you don't get those chances all the time. I don't see why you're still in that. So him and CM Punk are over there. Andrade, like I said, I just don't think he's quite there yet for the Money in the Bank, because I don't know where you would, thinking moves ahead, right? I don't know where you would take his storyline. Does he go up against a Rey Mysterio? Because I don't think Rey Mysterio is still at his peak. Do you put him against some other Mexican, kind of
Santos
look,
Escobar?
right? Do you think Santos Escobar deserves a shot at the championship or to be a champion? Like, I just don't, the pool of guys for him to take a storyline, just it doesn't add up for me. So I am going LA Knight to win Money in the Bank.
Wow. And LA Knight was a favorite last year. And now
he was there. He was
dude,
right there.
he was right there at the very grasp. I could actually, and I hate myself saying this, I could see a scenario, and I don't want to, but CM Punk keeps costing Drew McIntyre everything. How fantastic of a story would it be, / frustrating for me, if Drew McIntyre wins Money in the Bank this weekend and he goes to cash in, because he's been cashed on twice on now. He goes to cash in, and after he's already made it official and the bell's rung, CM Punk costs him another opportunity. Like, I totally see that happening because, like you said, like, nobody in this field, like, strike me as, hey, let's put the world title on him right now. Jey Uso is going to be involved with the bloodline. Carmelo Hayes isn't there yet. Andrade isn't there yet. Chad Gable isn't there yet. LA Knight, maybe, but LA Knight would more so ruin whatever's happening with the WWE title or the World Heavyweight title. For some reason, it feels like Drew McIntyre is going to win, but never gets to successfully cash in because of CM Punk.
I had a scenario in my head, but it, fizzled out on Monday night because I thought the Wyatt Six was going to take out Chad Gable. And then they were going to put a mystery opponent in for Money in the Bank, and that person was going to be CM Punk. And CM Punk, LA Knight, and all of those guys, in a Money in the Bank because, the Wyatt Six took out Chad Gable for what he's done as far as the whole family dynamic because of, everything, I'm the voice of reckoning, right? I'm the voice of reckoning is what Uncle Howdy said and what they said on Monday in that last tape. So, he's the justice guy, right? Like Sting in the 90s, right? The crow Sting, he was just about justice. I mean, it wasn't like he hated people, but he found a wrong and he righted it. And I feel that that's where the Wyatt Six is, but just in a demonic way. So in my head, I thought he was going to be taken out potentially before Money in the Bank, and they were going to slide in CM Punk there. But but like for me, firmly, just where I sit, just star power and what you could possibly do as far as matches down the road for that guy for you.
Yeah. We'll have to see how it unfolds. Again, I'll be at Square Circle Champions this Saturday night. Bell time, I believe, is at 7. But J.A.C. will be there. I'll get to call his match. Shane Smith, podcast _ Smith, is going to be there as my broadcast partner. Super cheap, fun entertainment. It's fantastic stuff that SEC puts on. And then we'll figure out what happens at Money in the Bank, and we'll talk about that. Thank you guys so much for joining us for Drop the Mic today. Please, please, please go subscribe, go follow the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. It's free, so why not just go support us? Out of Pocket will be back on the channel tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time for 4th of July. But for myself, Michael Davis, thanks J.A.C for stopping by. Thanks Joe for stopping by. And we'll be back next week. Drop the mic. Whatever you do, don't drop the mic, and we will see you next week.